News with Mitsumi Takahashi.
Good evening. An incident yesterday at Trudeau Airport had a lot of people talking. 2 international flights bound for Montreal came in escorted by fighter jets. It's not something we see often, but one aviation analyst says this kind of thing might start to become more common. Here's Matt Grillo.
Operations appear to be back to normal at the Trudeau Airport after some tense moments on Wednesday. NORAD says CF-18 fighter jets escorted 2 inbound planes because of a security incident. When the planes landed, the SQ arrested 2 men, and a fraud investigation is now underway. Montreal airport officials say they discovered what they call a suspicious suitcase on one of the landing flights. Police were called, and that threat was unfounded, even while the U.S. FAA initially reported the incident as a bomb threat. It all led to the closure of 1 runway. NAV Canada limited the number of flights coming into Montreal for 2 hours. Aviation analyst John Graddick says it's rare to see a flight to Montreal being escorted by fighter jets, but it's a decision the pilot can take.
When you have a captain of an aircraft identifying a potential issue on board the airplane, the response is very rapid, and they take no chances, and they basically make sure that that airplane stays on course and stays away from any potential deviation for its path.
Graddick says with growing geopolitical tensions, there is a potential for more disruptions.
In my opinion, we'll see more of it as time goes on, as the conflicts that we have around the world start to get more and more vicious or more and more rampant, and geopolitical issues start to cross boundaries, including air.
The 2 men arrested have been released, and the SQ says one of them could face charges of fraud. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
The Maisonneuve-Rosemont Hospital is desperately in need of repairs, but there's still no start date for construction. Advocates for the hospital say they're concerned about the constant delays. Today, Infrastructure Minister Benoit Charette said the money is there, but the planning is not complete.
At this moment, we don't have the infrastructure to welcome the new construction. We have to have water infrastructure to build this hospital, so we will do that first. We will manage the whole site first.
A doctor at the hospital who's pushing for the project says he's deeply disappointed. He says the government keeps asking to scale down the project, but he says there's little left to cut.
We already scaled down the project a lot. So when the government says like, oh, you have to shave more, can't do that. You know, next step is going to be like the emergency exits. This is where we are. There's no way you can cut more. The project is absolutely lean.
And the doctor also says each month's delay costs taxpayers $10 million in cost increases and in the salaries of people who are left doing nothing while they wait for a new version of the project to be developed. The Quebec budget tabled yesterday was a disappointment for advocates of public transit, and they say it left many unanswered questions. Stéphane Giroux has that story.
In Montreal, nearly half of the metro stations are in an advanced state of disrepair, and yesterday's provincial budget contains little to speed up urgent work, according to the STM.
Unfortunately, yesterday, what we saw in the budget, the next 5 years, we have almost the same amount of the 5 last years. And knowing that the inflation in construction is growing around 8% per year, for sure, the money that we have right now, we can't do much with it.
The budget does contain an extra $500 million for infrastructure work, but it will only be available in 2030.
We will not be able to maintain the active that we have, the assets that we have right now, the way that we wanted to.
Groups defending commuters say the system can't wait for major reinvestment as emergency shutdowns grow in frequency.
We'll take it, but it's clearly not enough. And when you look at the numbers, actually for the next 5 years, it's going to decline. We're not going to invest more, we're going to invest less each year.
The minister responsible for transport and infrastructure, Jonathan Julien, says the CAQ has invested massively in public transport, but says past neglect makes it harder to catch up on decaying infrastructure.
Le parc immobilier, les routes, la même chose.
It's the same with buildings, roads, schools, or hospitals, says Julien. There wasn't enough maintenance back then, but we're slowly catching up. The question remains, will these investments even be enough to prevent future disruptions? Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
What yesterday's budget did have was $1 billion to be used at the discretion of the new leader who will be chosen next month. And that's caused an uproar from the opposition parties. Here's Sweeta Rassi.
Quebec's new budget is raising eyebrows, and not for the usual reasons. The CAQ government has set aside $250 million over 5 years, leaving the future premier free to spend the money however they want. Opposition parties are calling it an electoral budget, as Quebecers are heading to the polls in October.
This budget doesn't answer the priorities of Quebecers. It answers only the priority to re-elect the CAQ.
The budget of the state must not be used for political purposes.
The Liberals argue that money should have gone towards fixing healthcare and infrastructure issues.
The money that the CAQ has promised to keep under the mattress for their electoral slush fund is money that should be going towards these projects and nothing else.
When questioned about the optics, Treasury Board President France-Hélène Duranceau said this.
No, not at all. Please, let's see what they will want to do with that amount of $250 million per year.
Political analyst Daniel Bellon says it's something he's never seen before in Quebec politics.
Setting aside money for the new leader and premier in the middle of the leadership race is really highly unusual.
He calls it a lack of political judgment, adding the government should have waited until after the leadership race to table its budget. Instead, he says this move just opened the door to criticism.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Christine Fréchette and Bernard Drainville are running to become the next CAQ leader. On Facebook, Fréchette writes, if elected, she will quickly announce funding for some of her commitments, including housing. Drainville's team, however, did not respond to our request for comments. Whoever succeeds Premier François Legault next month will inherit that $250 million envelope that is already under scrutiny. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News, Quebec City.
Weekly garbage collection will be back in the borough of Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve, but not entirely, and people want to know why. Laurence Brisson-Debreuil reports.
A schedule shift meant to clean up the streets is now being adjusted. Starting May 1st, household garbage in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve will be picked up every week, but only until the end of October. From November to April, collection drops back to every 2 weeks. At community group Les 33, spokesperson André-Philippe Doré says that split doesn't go far enough.
Why it's only half of the year, not the whole year. In the winter, there's less smells, there's not less garbages.
The reduced pickup started as a pilot project in 2022 and was expanded across the borough in 2024. The goal, push Montreal towards zero waste by 2030. But for many residents, the reality was hard to ignore. Overflowing bins, bad smells, and an increase in rodents. Doré says the situation also led some people to dump trash where they shouldn't.
There's no garbage collection this week. Well, whatever, I'll just throw it in an alley. There's already stuff there that is piled up, so who will care?
The partial reversal comes after pressure from residents and campaign promises during the last municipal election. City Councillor Alexandre Deveau-Guzani says the borough is now trying to tackle the problem from multiple angles.
We want to put more trash bins in parks, in bus stops, at the cross of roads. We want to increase that number.
He says garbage drop-off points and extra cleaning crews are also part of the plan. The administration insists it's still aiming to cut down on what ends up in the bin, but this time they want to help people sort it out.
When we open a bag of trash, like the average bag of trash, you can notice that around 60 to 75% of what it contains doesn't go to trash.
He says the goal remains the same.
We want to encourage better behavior from the citizens.
Recycle more, compost more, throw less away. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
If there is one thing Quebec parents are concerned about above all else, seems to be screen time. A study looked at the psychological well-being of families, and they found that screen time topped the list of concerns for a third year in a row. 84% of the parents surveyed supported the ban on cell phones in schools, but many parents said that doesn't solve the problem of cell phone use after the classes are over.
What they should have done is taught children how to use the phones responsibly and to understand what is fake news and what's not fake news, right? What happens is, what we're seeing and what our survey shows is that, yes, they're not using it in schools, but then you know what happens, you get home and then that's all they're doing. And we have data that suggests that children are spending more than 4 hours on a weekday on their phone and the weekend. So that's a lot.
Tomorrow is the first day of spring, and Jeannie, she's the black bear at the Eco Museum, she's come out of her den, but it's not feeling like spring. Here's Christine Law.
After 113 days in her den having a snooze, Jeannie, the 15-year-old black bear, was active and ready to come out.
Partially environmental cues, but also after a set number of days, they're ready to come out, they're ready to start eating again.
At the Eco Museum in St. Anne de Bellevue, signs of spring are everywhere, except on the thermometer.
I don't think winter's over yet.
I think this is like the last winter storm, and it starts to warm up.
Even my tulips have already started to poke out from the ground. They're getting a little bit confused.
Environment Canada meteorologist Giselle Dukey says spring is delayed this year.
It's going to be colder than normal for this time of year, with also more precipitation expected than normal.
More precipitation, for example, means lots of snow on March 20th, the first day of spring.
Anywhere from about 7 to 10 centimeters of snow is expected for the Montreal region and surrounding area.
New snow isn't a bother for Jeannie, the bear who has lots to eat.
Black bears are quite well adapted to the wintertime, so it's not a matter of how cold it is, but rather if she has access to resources.
But the bipeds in boots we spoke to say more snow is a bit of a bother.
I hardly wait for spring to come. It's time for the snow to go and for us to get into the summer fun.
Dukey says spring will come.
It's like later on, towards the second week in April, perhaps the third, is when we start to see a bit of a warming signature, and it looks like temperatures will start to be warming up.
Be patient for spring, or sleep off this weather for a while longer. Christine Long, CTV News.
And coming up, talking to Americans.
Then Trump came along and said he was going to turn Canada into the 51st state, and everybody went crazy. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say they went crazy. So we're never going to be the 51st state. And I just wish he'd knock that off.
So what was Pierre Poilievre doing on Joe Rogan podcast? And there are growing fears that the war in the Middle East could spread. Pierre Poilievre appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast today. The appearance is part of a U.S. tour which wrapped up today in New York City. Here's Rachel Aiello.
We've got to get you into the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre taking a bite out of the Big Apple.
It's great to be in the United States of America. Americans love Canada. That's the great news that I take away from this trip.
Before New York, Poilievre met politicians and executives in Austin, Texas, and also sat down with popular but divisive podcast host Joe Rogan for more than 2 hours to talk up Canada.
So there's a narrative in America, and the narrative is that you were about to win and your party was about to win, but then Trump came along and said he was going to turn Canada into the 51st state, and everybody went crazy. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say they went crazy. So we're never going to be the 51st state. And I just wish he'd knock that off so that we can get back to talking about the things that we can do.
The Joe Rogan Experience is one of the most listened to podcasts globally, with an average 11 million listeners per episode. And Poilievre sought to leverage that audience while confirming he hasn't talked to U.S. President Donald Trump about the trade war.
I've said, listen, I'll leave it to the Prime Minister to do the negotiating, And I've said I'll support him any way I can. Even in my visit down here, I'm sending him text messages to tell him what's going on.
Rogan has been criticized for platforming polarizing figures and spreading misinformation. He had invited Poilievre to come on during the last election, but the Conservative leader declined. Now, the party says the podcast is an ideal platform to reach more potential voters, but also speak to Americans.
And we had a great conversation. We need to harness the goodwill of the American people, and what better place to do it than on the biggest podcast in the world.
Tonight, Poilievre will further outline his vision for Canada-U.S. relations in a keynote speech at the Foreign Policy Association in New York. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Gas prices in Europe skyrocketed today. There were Iranian strikes on key energy infrastructure in the Middle East. And world leaders are looking at how they can bring this war to an end. Here's Heather Wright.
An explosion near a Saudi Aramco site in Riyadh lit up the night sky, one of several sites targeted by Iran, as this war spreads to energy sites in the Gulf. Iran is retaliating for a strike that hit its South Pars facility on Wednesday. Attacks were reported in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and in the United Arab Emirates. The attacks on energy infrastructure have rattled markets and are leading to concerns about disruption to the global supply chain, with energy prices jumping 10% this morning.
Will backfire politically.
Today, foreign ministers from a number of Middle Eastern countries met in the Saudi capital. So far, they have not responded militarily to Iran's attacks, but warned that could change.
As we have stated quite clearly, we have reserved the right to take military actions if deemed necessary.
Here in Dubai, warning alarms go off daily, with the vast majority of missile and drone attacks successfully intercepted. Work at construction sites continues, and there is little mention of what is generally referred to as the current situation.
We're here in the spice souk, which is normally pretty busy, and it's relatively quiet today, partially due to Ramadan, but also the government has asked people to work from home, and school has moved online.
As Ramadan ends, all outdoor prayers for Eid al-Fitr have moved inside for safety, many bracing for what could be a lengthy conflict.
This war has really gone from a short, sharp Venezuelan in and out to it could be this decade's version of a quagmire for the United States, again, just a la Iraq, Afghanistan, but this one's actually got more impacts because it's economic.
In Lebanon, Israel stepped up its attacks on Beirut as it expanded its ground invasion against Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group that operates out of the southern part of the country. Lebanon says the death toll has now climbed past 1,000, with an estimated 1 million people internally displaced. Today, Lebanon's prime minister said his country did not want this war and is asking for negotiations with Israel to end it.
As countries grapple with skyrocketing energy prices, there are also concerns this conflict could soon impact the global supply chain. Aid groups are already sounding the alarm about vital relief unable to get to countries like Afghanistan and Sudan. Heather Wright, CTV News, Dubai.
And European leaders are standing firm. They say they will not join the war the U.S. and Israel began in the Middle East. The leaders are meeting in Brussels to discuss the rising oil and gas prices. And they continue to deflect requests from Donald Trump to help get tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Leaders say they're also concerned about the possibility of a new refugee crisis in Europe. The Japanese Prime Minister was at the White House today, and during the visit, a Japanese journalist asked Donald Trump why he didn't tell Japan and the other allies about plans to attack Iran.
One thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor?
Trump also said he expects Japan to support the war against Iran. Medical supplies arrived at a hospital in Cuba yesterday. The delivery was part of an international mission to help the island's healthcare system. Cuba's access to medical supplies has become severely limited because of the U.S. blockade. Earlier this week, the entire island lost power and was blacked out for almost 30 hours. Havana and Washington have begun talks to try to diffuse the crisis. And coming up, 2 teenagers and a plot to kill.
It was specific to killing and murdering other students.
They've been arrested thanks to a tip from Interpol and the FBI. And how a new fake taxi scam is robbing people of their savings. As the war in the Middle East intensifies, so do the secondary effects of the war. There are increasing reports of anti-Semitism and hate. Also today, we saw Pierre Poilievre on Joe Rogan. Tom Mulcair joins us. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Mitsumi. Good to be with you.
Always nice to see you, Tom. So Pierre Poilievre, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast today.
Yep.
Going into it, a lot of people said it was a very risky move. How do you think he did?
It was a risky move. I think he did great. I mean, I got a hint of it the minute I saw them with that big weight that they were both holding with the Canadian flag on it. I mean, Poilievre is somebody who really cares a lot about his physical fitness, as does Rogan, clearly. And it was interesting to see the two of them just chuckling about that. And the whole interview went quite well. I mean, even when Rogan tried to push back a little bit, saying that Alberta looked like scorched earth, and Poilievre was able to push back and say, no, it's the most ethical or sort of thing, oil in the world, and they got along well. He said it was time for Trump, and he used a small swear word to say stop this stuff. He didn't say stuff about 51st state, and I think that they got along swimmingly, and there are millions and millions of people who listen to that. And of course, I'm not sure that there are that many Canadians on any given day, but I can guarantee you a lot of Canadians listen to this one, Mitsumi.
So I want to get now to the war in the Middle East, Tom, and we're seeing more attacks against the Jewish community here. Ottawa did announce $10 million for security at Jewish institutions, but what more do you think can be done, should be done?
I think that leaders have to speak up about anti-Semitism, because it's a convenient dodge to say, well, no, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just anti-Israel or anti-Zionism. The two often overlap, and the international definition of anti-Semitism makes that clear. The other thing that we're seeing, in addition to the shootings, for example, we had 3 in recent weeks in Toronto. We've had several fire bombings here, including on the West Island. What we notice is that there is a greater understanding that this is related, but it's an attack directly on people who live here who have nothing to do with that conflict. But it's conflating the Israeli government and the Jewish community here that is so troublesome. There are other communities being hit hard. Of course, we think of the Iranian community itself. It's been, there are fair numbers of people of Iranian extraction in Montreal, and they're obviously very worried about their loved ones back in Iran, even if they've been here for a long time. Most of them have friends or family back in Iran. So too with the Lebanese community. I mean, you know as well as I do, Mitsumi, that that's a very large, well-established community. Of course, the second front that exists right now, the Israeli army in Lebanon, trying to get rid of the other terrorist groups that's been, subsidized by Iran. This one was Hezbollah. Of course, they had to deal with Hamas after the horrific terrorist attacks of October 7th, 23. So there is an effect on Canadian communities of all this. And I think that coming together, realizing that when someone like Joe Kent quits and says that there's this dark, sinister Israeli plot to control President Trump and pull his strings and make him get involved in a war, it's easy to push back against that and say, that goes right back to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was a fake book created over a century ago that brought along a lot of the long existing hatred against Jews in Europe, and that helped lead to the murder of 6 million Jews because they were Jews in the Holocaust. So it's a good reminder not to let people use that sort of argument anymore. But listening to Tucker Carlson interview Kent, it was just startling. And Kent's letter itself showed that he should have never been in that job. But there you go. The Americans are stuck with that, as is Trump.
Overall, though, how do you think Prime Minister Mark Carney is managing in all this, the war, NATO, the economic fallout, all of it?
It's been an uneven effort. After a full-throated support for Trump, that people applied to everything Trump was doing. I think that Carney was trying specifically to talk about getting rid of Iran's possibility and threat of having a nuclear weapon. We've come back and forth, and it's that whipsawing I think has been difficult for Canadians to follow. Then he tried to back away from it, saying, well, you know, it was with regret, and then he started trying to be more opposed to it, and now he's saying that Canada could be involved in trying to secure the Strait of Hormuz, even though we've been saying all along we won't be involved militarily in any way, shape, or form. So it's been hard to follow. And in politics, the consistency of your messaging is the key, because you want to be able to keep repeating your message, because people don't get it all in one shot. And what they've been getting is some contradictory stuff from a very hard-working prime minister who's done very well on so many files. But on this one, I think it's been one of his most difficult his most difficult cases, and he hasn't been helped. I mean, you know, back at home, Anita Anand herself is quite capable, but the government department she's in charge of, Global Affairs Canada, has not helped at all during the recent trip to India. It was a messy up and down on messaging. So it's, I think that they're due for a new broom is supposed to sweep clean. And Carney never swept clean. He's held on to a lot of the deadwood, and I think it's starting to cost him.
Okay. Thank you very much for this, Tom.
Good to be with you, Mitsumi.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, we woke up to a frosty March morning, and the snow isn't over just yet. More on that in a second. But first, looking at our current temperature, we're seeing temperatures close to freezing around much of the board. So 0 in Sherbrooke, 0 in Mirabel, sitting at +1 in Montreal right now. That is to say, it was a bit of a cooler day for this time of year. Our normal high is now sitting at +4, but it is a time where really anything goes. If we look to our records, we've hit that record high of +20.1 and a low of -20.4. So for tonight, we are expecting to be in the minuses, but our low for the evening sitting at -3, and we're expecting periods of precipitation to clear out for tonight. Now, as we head into tomorrow, we're looking at a wake-up temperature of -4, along with increasing clouds. And by afternoon, we can expect those clouds to bring us snow. Roughly 9 centimeters is what we're forecasting for the Montreal area, as we move up to a high of -1 for the day. So here's what it's looking like timing wise. If we look at our future cast, the system is coming over from the west. It'll make its way through North Bay, through Ottawa, and over to Montreal. So for the Montreal area, we're expecting that to hit us by about 11 a.m. That's when the system is expected to start. And then it'll continue moving out to the east, clearing the greater Montreal area by about 6 p.m. in the evening. After that, we're looking at more snow for the weekend as well, roughly 1 centimeter to come on Saturday. On Sunday, another big snow day, roughly 10 centimeters is what we're looking at, and an additional 5 come Monday. So really, it's once we get toward the middle of next week when we could potentially see a break in that precipitation. So on Tuesday right now, we're calling for a mix of sun and clouds in the skies. Wednesday, however, is looking cloudier. And by the time we get to Thursday, that's when once again we could see that precipitation coming back into our forecast. But as temperatures range between that high of +2 and that low of -5, well, that precipitation could take the form of either rain or snow. So all things considered, you'll want to be well prepared when you're headed out next week for whatever may come.
2 teenagers are accused of plotting simultaneous attacks on their schools. The 2 live thousands of kilometers apart in separate provinces. Police say they were tipped off by Interpol and the FBI. Paul Hollingsworth has more.
Police in 2 provinces have uncovered an alleged cross-Canada plot to simultaneously attack 2 schools, Rivers Collegiate in Manitoba and Parkview Education Centre in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia.
It was specific to killing and murdering other students.
Manitoba RCMP say a 14-year-old boy in Rivers began talking about the plan online with a 15-year-old in Nova Scotia last month. Both have been arrested.
He was on a school bus when we arrested him heading to the Rivers Collegiate. So we arrested him before he went to school on Monday.
The Nova Scotia youth is facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder and uttering death threats. Police say neither attack was imminent. The plot was uncovered last Friday after a tip from Interpol and the FBI. Cybersecurity analyst Ritesh Kotek says this is an example of a high-tech digital investigation.
It's one thing to go online and say something. It's another thing if there's a probability that somebody's actually going to act on what they're saying and alerting the appropriate authorities. There might have been undercover operatives.
The FBI and Interpol monitor a lot of certain chat groups online. They have a lot of ability to grab keywords.
During a search of a Nova Scotia home, imitation weapons were seized, along with a crudely made pipe bomb, clothing with hate symbols, and electronic devices. There was also an extensive search in Manitoba.
After the arrest of the youth, there was 2 residences that were searched, and we did locate 2 firearms that are now in police custody.
Investigators say the firearms found in Rivers belong to a relative. This news comes 6 weeks after the mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, that saw 8 people killed and 27 others injured. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
British Columbia is trying to crack down on cases of extortion. The Canada Border Services Agency says dozens of people have been deported. The agency says it investigated hundreds of immigration cases and issued 70 removal orders. They also say that 35 people have already been deported. Officials say of those deported, one was in Canada on a study permit, another as a temporary resident, and they say both had alleged links to criminal organizations. Canada's armed forces will be getting new rifles. The federal government says the Colt Canada Company in Kitchener, Ontario, will make over 65,000 rifles for the military. They will come in 2 stages. The first phase will be for 30,000 general service rifles over the next 3 years. It's going to cost just over $300 million. The second phase will begin in 4 years' time.
$6.6 billion pledged over 5 years to prioritize domestic, here, at home, defense production. The objectives outlined in the strategy are ambitious, we'll admit it, but they're realistic in light of the billions of dollars committed to defense in the coming years. By 2035, this country will be spending a total of $450 billion on defense. In the next 9 years, the single largest investment in defense in Canadian history.
The new rifles will replace the current stock of C7 and C8 rifles. Those date back to the Afghan War 20 years ago. And coming up, the pride of sport and community.
They work so hard, and their smiles say it all.
The Little Native Hockey League. It's a celebration of culture. And the happiness index. Canadians, it seems, aren't as happy as they used to be.
For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Your Health, brought to you by Gratian Scaff. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for limited time.
Travel insurance is always recommended, and that includes people who visit Canada. A woman in Atlanta ended up with a bill for more than $100,000. Here's Pat Ford.
Naveed Zafar's mother, Begum Bashiram, is in her 80s and lives in Atlanta, Georgia. In October, she was visiting with Zafar in Whitby and his sister in Waterloo. While in Waterloo, she had a stroke and ended up in the hospital.
I don't know if she's going to make it because she was unconscious.
Zafar rushed to the Waterloo Regional Health Network to see his mother and fill out documents for her care.
I didn't even bother looking at it because all I was thinking, if I can see my mom again or if she's going to make it.
Bashiran was in the hospital for 4 weeks in and out of intensive care. She has since recovered and is now back in Atlanta. While visiting Canada, she did not have travel health insurance, and the family has been handed a huge bill.
$110,000.
The total bill came to just over $111,000. The hospital did offer a discount of 10% on certain charges. Zafar owed about $100,000, and so far he has paid $55,000, but he's still expected to come up with the rest.
Being as a responsible citizen, I definitely want to pay to hospital.
When we reached out to the Waterloo Regional Health Network, a spokesperson said, "We sincerely empathize with the financial strain unexpected medical emergencies can cause, especially when navigating the complexities of international health care."
All people visiting Canada that are not Canadian residents need to purchase Visitor to Canada insurance.
Martin Firestone with Travel Secure says many different companies offer Visitor to Canada insurance, and he says the same way Canadians need insurance traveling outside our borders, visitors must have it to make sure they're covered if they get sick or injured while here.
Sadly, it appears they didn't buy it, and now they're facing this huge bill.
Zafar says he is thankful the hospital looked after his mother and says he'll have to find a way to pay the rest of the bill.
I mean, I had to pay. I mean, there's no way out.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
There is a new taxi scam. Police say people are posing as both the taxi driver and the customer to distract victims to try to get access to their bank accounts. Leah Larocque has more from Ottawa.
Watch the top corner of your screen. An individual walks up to a Capital taxi van that's parked at Coventry Connections headquarters, ripping off the roof plate and taking off.
This particular occasion, this particular individual was quite bold to come in the yard and steal one of the roof signs.
Police say the individual is a suspect in the latest taxi scam operation to hit the Capital.
The last few days, it's been outside the universities, Carleton and Ottawa U. There's been 3 cases just around the university getting young students. They've also hit outside of Walmart. They've hit outside Billings Bridge.
It works like this. Individuals posing as a driver and customer pull up to a victim, claiming the taxi driver can't accept cash, asking the victim to pay with their debit in exchange for cash.
You punch in your PIN, they give you a different debit card that matches your bank, trying to fool you. Once you leave, they go right to a bank and start withdrawing money.
Draining bank accounts within moments.
Police are reminding residents that every legitimate cab will always have a roof sign, an ID number, and a taxi plate, and they will always accept cash as payment.
You're taking money through the credit card from the passenger.
Abdul Sakour is warning his fellow taxi driver about the scam.
I'm 71 years old and retired life, but I'm very happy with the passenger. They are my friends and my family like that.
As for customers, they say they will always check their ride.
You have to be so cautious with everywhere you go now. Yeah, you're always on the lookout. You hear all these horror stories.
I look at the operator ID to see if it looks like the person, and sometimes if I'm really not comfortable, I will try and see what I can find online.
Leah Larocque, CTV News.
Actor Val Kilmer will be returning to the screen a year after his death, and it's going to be done through artificial intelligence. Kilmer will appear as a Catholic priest in the upcoming film As Deep as the Grave. He was cast in the role before his death last April, but he couldn't work on set because of his health. The filmmakers say they made the decision to use AI to, quote, honor the actor's personal connection to the role.
Business News brought to you by Au Vieux de Louvre, where memories and meals come together.
And now here are some of the day's closing financial numbers. In Toronto, the TSX was down 457 points to 31,854. In New York, the Dow was down 203 points to 46,021. The S&P 500 closed 18 points lower to finish the day at 6,606. And the Nasdaq was down 61 points to close at 22,090. And the Canadian dollar is up slightly. It is trading at 72.79. The University of Oxford has published its annual World Happiness Report. Canada was once in the top 10. Now it ranks 25th. It seems people under the age of 25 in Canada, the U.S., Australia, and New Zealand are not as happy as they were a decade ago. Researchers are blaming heavy social media use, especially among teenage girls in English-speaking countries. Finland is ranked the world's happiest country for the 9th straight year. And tomorrow is International Day of Happiness. It's also the first day of spring. The largest First Nations hockey tournament for young people is underway in Ontario. Sean Leithong has more on that.
There are tiny players.
We're going to get the puck and score.
All the way to the biggest, with fans packing the arena. It's called the Little Native Hockey League, but words used to describe this event are anything but little.
It's grounded in culture. It brings all our communities together.
Pride of your people, who you are, where you come from.
The LNHL brings teams from First Nations from all across Ontario. Over 270 teams in 10 arenas come to Markham for this 4-day tournament. Gerard Pelche is an organizer and a former professional player who took part in the first LNHL as a kid back in 1971.
And it was really nice to represent my First Nations at the time. I remember that. I am playing for Wiki.
Wiki, or Wikwemekong First Nation on Manitoulin Island, has a team skating in yellow and purple. Girls playing in the oldest competitive division, and they embody this tradition.
I've been playing since I was really small, and I love it. It's like my favorite time of year.
Many players living elsewhere come here to join their First Nation team. The common lessons are teamwork, cooperation, and pride. After a win, Coach Ruby Trudeau from Wikwemekong is emotional.
I really want to say I'm proud of you all.
Because many of her players are in their final year. But when players graduate, there's plenty to take their place. At the rink next door, some U9 players are taking part in their first LNHL. Here from Brunswick House First Nation, 4 hours north of Sault Ste. Marie.
It's a good tournament, and everyone scores, and some people don't. Get the puck!
Coach Taylor Tangi played here as a kid, and now she's coaching her own kids along with her father and sister.
They work so hard, and their smiles say it all.
Sean Leithong, CTV News.
There will be another civil suit against the city of Longueuil and its police force. Caroline, again, this involves the shooting death of Nouran Rezai.
Yes, the parents of some of his friends who witnessed the killing of the teenage boy by Longueuil police are now suing the force in a civil case for post-traumatic stress that they say their children suffered because of this. The city will not comment, but we will speak to the lawyer for the families tonight. And the nuns who own the land where Villa Maria High School is have appointed a new board to settle the impasse between them and the school over its future. We'll have all that and more, including the Habs and the Victoire games on the Late Show tonight at 11:30. Mitsumi.
Thanks very much, Caroline. And coming up, call them city slickers.
Ever since COVID, people have been wanting to get outdoors so badly.
So from all over the world, people are heading out to the dude ranches.
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
It seems people are lining up and paying for the real cowboy experience. Here's Danny New.
My hurts just watching this.
25 years ago this summer, Billy Crystal and the gang slowly transformed from city slickers into cowboys. Which, these days in Wyoming, apparently a lot of people are increasingly giddying up to try themselves.
Ever since COVID, people have been wanting to get outdoors so badly.
I spoke with Clay Miller, owner of Paradise Ranch, and Kerry Kilmer, owner of the V-Bar Guest Ranch, who both tell me that since the pandemic, their clientele has exploded from mostly East and West Coasters to folks from all over the country and world.
Do the people from the UK say, yeehaw?
Yes.
They do.
They love to be cowboys.
Yeah! From June through September, families will venture to one of these quote-unquote dude ranches and learn all sorts of new, old skills. For example, horseback riding. Both of these ranches have more than 100 horses and try to take guests step by step to teach them how to trot or lope, even when they're already feeling like the Duke.
The guy from France would scream, "John Wayne," when he was ready to lope.
In addition, folks also learn fishing, archery, dancing, and
Howdy, partner.
the archaic concept of having fun without a phone.
Do you ever use a lasso to get a kid's phone out of his hands and get him into nature?
Oh, see, what a great idea. We really try and get those kids reattached to nature as much as we can during the week, and they seem to love it.
Of course, this all may be a bit of a culture shock for some, but Carrie says this experience is not just about learning how to ride a horse.
Kind of a key takeaway for people is that cowboy is really a way of life.
In New York, for ABC News, I'm Danny New.
So, Anastasia, it's never good when I ask you what you got for us, and your first response is, "I'm sorry."
That's right. That's right. Unfortunately, it pains me to report that spring has not sprung just yet. We have some snow on the way. Here's how we are going to get there. We're looking at a low of -3 tonight, along with increasing clouds as we head into tomorrow morning. For a wake-up temperature, we're looking at -4, and then the snow begins at around 11 a.m. is when we see it starting, continuing pretty well all afternoon into the evening. So for those of us in the greater Montreal area, we're looking at roughly 9 centimeters coming our way. That's for Friday. On Saturday, we have roughly 1 centimeter that we're forecasting. That's along with a high of +2. And then we have another big day on Sunday when it comes to snow. We could see as much as 10 centimeters. Mitsumi?
It's the first day of spring tomorrow. Parade's on Sunday. And that's it for us. Have a good evening. Stay well. Good night.